Imagine your morning commute. Instead of, gripping the steering wheel in traffic, you're actually reclined, maybe catching a few extra Z's, or finally digging into that book. Or picture this: your car drops you right at the grocery store entrance, then just vanishes, parks itself somewhere else, ready to come back when you call it. This whole dream of self-driving cars, it's been promised for what, decades? Honestly, it feels so close you can almost touch it. But there's a catch, a pretty big one. You look at a state-of-the-art Waymo car, fully autonomous. Today, owning one, that cost you somewhere between, say, $120,000 and $250,000.
Yeah.
That's way out of reach for most people. Definitely more for big companies or maybe tech billionaires. So the big question we're tackling in this deep dive is this: are these robotic cars actually going to get significantly cheaper anytime soon, or is this amazing tech going to stay out of reach for, regular folks wanting to own one? Our mission today is really to dig into this. We're going to look at the numbers, the business side of things, the manufacturing hurdles, the costs, basically chart out whether owning a robot car is realistic or if we'll mainly be using them as a service. We're basing this on some really fresh research and articles, like one called The Robotic Car Revolution: Cheaper Rides, Not Purchases, which is current as of today, July 12th, 2025. And hey, if you find this kind of deep dive valuable, and I think you will, you should definitely check out Mind Expansion Daily. They've got tons more incredible insights like this. Seriously good stuff over there.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head. That price tag right now, it's a huge barrier. The dream you painted, the easy commute, the self-parking, it really depends on a lot more than just getting the tech right. It's about making it accessible. And understanding why they cost so much right now is really the first step. We need to figure that out before we can see how that future might actually happen for everyone.
Okay, let's do that. Let's unpack this sticker shock. Why the astronomical price? It's not just a fancy car with extra gadgets, is it? The research suggests it's like a total rethink of car design.
It really is. You're basically building a machine that needs to see, think, and react almost like a human, maybe even better, in incredibly complex situations. So the biggest cost drivers, it's kind of a triple whammy: the advanced sensors, the powerful onboard brain, and then the massive software and mapping effort behind it all.
Let's start with the senses. What are we talking about there?
Well, you need 360-degree awareness. That means things like LiDAR, the laser mapping tool. Now, the cost of LiDAR has plummeted, right? A decade ago, one unit was maybe $75,000. Yeah. Now you can get them for under $500, which is amazing. But a car needs several of these units, plus radar, plus maybe a dozen high-risk cameras. Just getting that whole sensor suite reliable and redundant enough, that alone can add, tens of thousands to the cost.
Okay, it's tens of thousands just for the eyes and ears. What about the brain processing all that information? That can't be cheap either.
Definitely not. You've got this constant flood of data coming in,
Yeah.
and the car needs to make split-second, potentially life-or-death decisions. It's not your dashboard GPS.
Yeah.
We're talking about a dedicated supercomputer, often stuck in the trunk somewhere. That brain, that's another, say, $20,000 to $40,000 on top.
Okay, sensors and brain. That's already a lot. But you mentioned software and maps being even bigger.
Oh, yeah. This is where the numbers get really staggering. The industry has sunk something like $160 billion into R&D.
Billion? With a B?
With a B. Developing the incredibly complex, fail-safe software code and building these hyper-detailed, centimeter-accurate 3D maps they need to navigate. And it's not like they just write it once. It's constant updates, refinement, testing. It dwarfs the hardware costs. So when you add it all up, sensors, computer, the massive R&D for software and maps, you start to see why a truly autonomous Level 4 car costs what it does today.
Right. Those numbers are just eye-watering. So it makes sense why you and I can't just go buy one, which brings us to how companies are actually trying to get this tech out there. There seem to be two main strategies, right? Can you walk us through those?
Yeah, essentially two different paths have emerged. On one hand, you've got the robo-taxi approach. Think Waymo, think Cruise. Their whole strategy isn't about selling cars to individuals. It's about building and operating large fleets of these autonomous vehicles, running them pretty much constantly, 24/7.
Spreading the cost.
Exactly. Spread those huge R&D and hardware costs over thousands, hopefully millions, of paid rides. They're already doing this, expanding in places like Phoenix and LA. It's mobility as a service.
Okay, that's one path. What's the other?
The other path is what you see with companies like Tesla and their full self-driving, or FSD system. Now, you can buy FSD. It costs, what, $8,000 or $10,000 up front, or you can subscribe monthly for maybe $99 to $199.
Right, I've seen that. But that's not the same as a Waymo cars, is it?
No, and this is a really crucial point that sometimes gets missed. Tesla's FSD is currently Level 2 autonomy. It's an advanced driver assistance system,
Nina.
meaning you, the driver, still have to be fully attentive, hands on the wheel, ready to take over at any moment. You are responsible. It's not the take-a-nap level of autonomy. The Waymo-style robotaxis are aiming for level 4. That means the car is responsible for driving under specific conditions, no human oversight needed in those situations.
Oh, okay. That's a huge difference, legally and practically.
It's massive. It impacts liability, regulations, everything. So right now, the market choice is basically unsellable level 4 autonomy via robotaxis or saleable level 2 assistance that still needs you. That split is a big reason why personally owned level 4 cars aren't really here yet.
That makes total sense. The hurdles for selling a true level 4 car to an individual must be immense. But okay, despite these costs and these strategic splits, the research does suggest things will change. There's hope for affordability, right? What are the signs pointing towards prices actually coming down?
Yes, absolutely. And this follows a pretty typical pattern for major new technologies.
Mm.
There are about 5 key things happening that signal costs should drop, maybe significantly over time. First, we already touched on LiDAR. Going from $75,000 down to under $500 is huge. And the next generation, solid-state LiDAR, is designed for mass production. That promises even more savings. It's becoming a commodity.
Right, like we saw with computer chips or even flat-screen TVs eventually. They started expensive, then got much cheaper.
Precisely. Which leads right into the second point,
Hmm?
economies of scale. When you go from making thousands of these complex sensor suites and computers to making millions, the cost per unit just plummets.
Yeah.
Standard manufacturing economics.
Okay, cheaper parts, mass production.
Yeah.
What else?
Third, the software gets cheaper to improve over time. That huge $160 billion R&D investment, it's not lost. It creates a foundation of reusable, tested code. Plus, the car's already on the road. The fleets, they're constantly collecting data. Feeding that data back refines the AI, makes it smarter, safer, and does it relatively cheaply compared to the initial development cost. It learns from experience.
That's like a network effect for learning.
Exactly. Fourth, and this is a big one for ownership costs, insurance.
Ah, yes,
Huh.
always a factor.
Well, Waymo put out a study in 2024 showing their cars had an 85% reduction in crashes
Mm.
compared to human drivers in the areas they operate. 85%.
That's incredible.
It really is. If that kind of safety record holds up and expands, insurance companies might be forced to completely rethink how they calculate risk for autonomous vehicles. We could see potentially massive drops in insurance premiums for AVs compared to human-driven cars. It could fundamentally change auto insurance.
Okay, that could be a huge saving. What's the fifth factor?
Subscription models. Imagine buying a car that's physically capable of level 4 autonomy, but the feature isn't active. You could then pay a monthly fee, maybe $50 or $100, to turn it on when you need it, or when regulations allow it in your area.
Ah, like unlocking features in software.
Kind of. It spreads the high upfront cost over time, makes it more accessible, more flexible for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
So you put these 5 things together, cheaper, LiDAR, economies of scale, maturing software, lower insurance, subscriptions, and you see a clear path, maybe a gradual one, but a definite path towards lower costs for autonomous tech.
Okay, that's a pretty compelling case for costs coming down. But let's talk brass tacks. What does this actually mean for the average person's budget? The research really drills down on cost per mile, right? That seems to be the key metric.
It really is. This is where the economics get fascinating and potentially disruptive. Right now, if you own and drive your own car, factoring in gas, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, all that, it probably costs you somewhere between, say, 59 and 84 cents per mile.
Okay, that's the baseline.
Now, if you could buy a private autonomous vehicle today, its cost per mile would likely be higher, maybe 80 cents to $1.20 per mile, because of those high upfront costs we discussed. So today, owning an AV doesn't make economic sense compared to driving yourself.
Got it. But the future forecasts, that's where things flip.
Exactly. Look ahead to 2035. Projections suggest that an owned autonomous vehicle might cost around 30 to 50 cents per mile. That's cheaper than today's human-driven car, thanks to those falling hardware and insurance costs we mentioned.
Okay, so ownership gets cheaper than today's driving. That's good.
But here's the real kicker. Those Waymo robotaxi rides. Right now they're expensive, maybe $5.60 a mile on average.
Yeah, pricey.
By 2035, forecasts predict that costs could plummet down to just 15 to 29 cents per mile.
Wait, 15 cents? That's drastically low.
It's incredibly low, and that's the key takeaway. Even if owning an AV gets cheaper than driving yourself today, hailing an autonomous ride could be significantly cheaper than owning one, maybe half the cost per mile or even less.
Wow. So the economics overwhelmingly point towards hailing, not buying.
That's what the numbers strongly suggest, yes. This shift in cost per mile really reshapes the whole picture. It pushes hard towards mobility as a service, especially in urban areas where these robotaxi fleets will likely concentrate first.
That economic argument is powerful. I mean, why deal with parking, maintenance, insurance if hailing is just cheaper and easier?
That's the logic. Convenience and cost are powerful motivators. Of course, there are other factors, maybe privacy concerns or just the enjoyment some people get from driving or owning a car. The sources focus mainly on the economics, though.
But the implications are huge. Less need for parking, changes to city layouts.
Absolutely. Fewer privately owned cars sitting idle most of the time, more efficient use of vehicles overall. It could really change how cities work, how people get around. Imagine commutes becoming that cheap. It changes everything.
Okay, this all sounds quite revolutionary, especially the cost per mile argument for hailing. But
Yeah.
it can't be all smooth sailing, right? There must be roadblocks still. What could delay this future or make it less certain?
Oh, definitely. There are still some major hurdles. First off, regulations. It's a bit of a mess, frankly.
How so?
Well, as of the latest data, something like 40 U.S. states still don't have comprehensive laws, specifically for autonomous vehicles. This kind of patchwork legal landscape, or just the absence of clear rules, really slows down investment and large-scale deployment. Companies need predictability.
Right, you can't just launch everywhere. What else?
Public trust. This is a big one. Despite the potential safety benefits, a lot of people are still pretty wary of driverless cars. You see polls showing maybe 60% of people are uncomfortable, especially after accidents involving current driver assist systems get publicized.
Yeah, trust takes time to build, especially with something so new.
It does, and it's absolutely crucial. Without public acceptance, widespread adoption just won't happen no matter how good the tech gets.
Are there more sort of physical or economic barriers too?
Yes, battery costs, for instance. Most AVs are electric, and batteries are a huge part of their cost. Surprisingly, battery prices actually ticked up about 10% in 2024. So that's a headwind impacting range and price.
Huh, I thought battery costs were always going down.
Generally, they have been, but there can be bumps due to materials or demand. And finally, you still have good old-fashioned supply chain problems. Remember the chip shortages. Things like that can pop up and really delay the ability to scale up production to those millions of units needed for economies of scale.
So regulations, trust, batteries, supply chains, it's a complex mix. These aren't trivial issues.
Not at all. They're interconnected too. An accident can hurt public trust, which can lead to stricter regulations, which slows deployment, and so on. So while the long-term trend seems clear, the timeline could definitely be stretched out by these challenges.
Okay, so let's try and pull all these threads together then. We've got the high current costs, the different strategies, the factors driving prices down, the compelling cost per mile for hailing, but also these significant roadblocks. Looking ahead, say to 2035, what does the landscape actually look like? Are we mostly hailing rides, or will owning our own robot car be common? What's the likely balance?
Well, if you look at the forecasts from major analysts, the picture leans heavily towards service over personal ownership, at least for true level 4 autonomy. For example, one study suggests that by 2035, maybe only about 4% of new cars sold will actually offer that level 4 capability for private buyers. 4% is pretty niche.
Only 4%. Wow, okay. So personal ownership stays rare for a while.
That seems to be the projection. But on the flip side, robotaxis could become a major force, especially in cities. Another forecast predicts that by 2035, something like 20% of all rides taken in urban areas could be in autonomous vehicles.
20%. That's a huge chunk of urban transport shifting over.
It is. And those subscription models we talked about, they might offer a middle ground for some people owning an AV-capable car and paying to use the features sometimes. But again, it circles back to that cost per mile. If hailing stays significantly cheaper, around that 15-29 cents per mile range compared to owning at 30-50 cents, well, the economic incentive to just use this service is incredibly strong.
So the future really looks more like subscribing to mobility rather than owning metal.
That seems to be the dominant direction, yes. Yeah. It impacts personal finance, urban planning, maybe even reduces the total number of cars needed. It's a shift from owning a product to accessing a service. A pretty fundamental change in how we think about getting around.
So back to our original question, are robotic cars about to get a lot cheaper for owning one yourself? The answer seems to be, well, cheaper eventually, but probably not soon for true level 4. The tech, the R&D costs, the regulations, the trust, it's still a long road for widespread, affordable personal ownership. But And this is the crucial twist, the cost of using them. That's where the revolution seems to be happening. Hailing a robotaxi could become remarkably cheap, potentially cheaper than even driving your own old car by 2035. So yeah, your first ride in a truly driverless car, it's almost certainly going to be one you summon with an app, not one you bought. The path forward seems to be through the app store, not the car dealership. Patience will get us closer to the dream, definitely. But maybe the dream itself looks a bit different now, less about ownership, more about access. And here's a thought to leave you with. If mobility becomes primarily a service we subscribe to, how does that change our relationship with transportation itself beyond just the cost? What does it free up, or what might we lose? If this deep dive got you thinking, please do like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily. We dive into topics like this all the time, exploring how technology is shaping our future. And we genuinely want to know what you think. Do you buy this vision of hailing dominating ownership? Or are you holding out hope for your own personal robot car? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.